Okay guys, we want to talk a little bit more about transforming your leaders as a leader, transforming people who've got potential and can really do great things for the organization. And I want to talk a bit about the character capacity of differentiation or individuation or separation. We use different words at the Institute depending on how technical and non-technical we are. But this is all that boundary stuff about, how do people, have a voice and all this sort of thing. And it's so relevant in organizations and especially in teams, because we're talking about developing people in teams, because it's when people can actually say the truth. I mean, there's their truth and your truth, but there's the truth too, right? And bring it out, and it's not like people don't freak out or have a panic attack or get offended and all that. It's really good. One of my favorite clients that I worked with for many years, very, very successful guy, he used to say that a lot of what he did in his meetings was we just clashed swords. And I went to a lot of those meetings because I worked with them for years. And I sit in the board meetings and they would just, no, that sounds like a bad idea. No, that's kind of stupid. Well, how do you justify that or whatever? And nobody got their feelings hurt because they were very attuned, very connected, very safe with each other, and great things happen. So here's some skills to give you, or some kind of like, I'll just call them skills to give you to help them develop the capacity to be separate. Now, I always like starting at the beginning by explaining what things are about. So it's really helpful when you're talking to someone you're developing is to describe that character capacity and break it down, because business people like to be practical. Break it down into two aspects. There are two parts of this ability. One of them is the defensive part, one is the offensive part. If you think about a sports team, defensive, you're trying to protect the goal and keep the other people from scoring. Offensive part, you're trying to score. Same thing is true with the ability to be separate. The defensive part is to be able to say no. To be able to, when people come up to you and want your time or your attention or your money or your resource or whatever, and you don't have it because if you answer that question or give them the money, you won't have enough for whatever you're doing, right? I mean, you're flying in the plane and they advertise about put your mask on, your oxygen mask on before you put your kids on. It's not being mean, it's being using good stewardship, same thing. But nobody likes to say no because nobody wants to be a bad guy. So how do you train people to say, that's not right for me? Well, I give them a little 5-word training when I'm working with somebody. Look, just say, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. Help them say no that way instead of like talking someone into liking your no. Nobody's going to really like your no and say, I embrace your no, that's great. Just say, I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me right now, or I'm busy, this sort of thing. So you got to train them on the no part. The offensive part is confrontation. That's when you go out to the person and say, can we talk? We've got an issue here with the report or with the money here or with the project or initiative. And you do that all the time. But you tell your person, these are the two things I want to help you work on and for you to develop the ability to say no and to confront well, and you're halfway there. The thing about the saying no that's important, the defensive part, is you've got to make it normative for your culture. That saying that doesn't work for me, I'm sorry, it just doesn't seem like that's something we want to do. If you make that the aberrant, then you're going to have people wanting to be a yes person all the time. They'll be yes on the outside and no on the inside. So you want to make saying yes all the time as aberrant and never have an opinion of your own, just being a people pleaser. And you say, that doesn't help us to grow. We need people who have thought. And no is the norm. Same thing with confrontation. Is make confrontation, healthy confrontation, relational confrontation, make that the norm and not the aberration. Take them through the 8 steps we've been training you on, the model I have of starting from I'm for you to get to specific and then tell them the impact and that sort of thing. Tease it out in the conversations, but just formally take them through. It's very simple. The way I wrote it was to make it be just kind of like get in your head quick and then tease it out in the conversation. So when you see them operating, you'll say, I like the later. You don't do it in front of them. You don't be the parent. You just say, I like the way you challenge that person, and I like the way you were direct, but you were also very warm with that person, and do it with them. And then tell them also, in our culture here, I want you to be able to say no to me. Now, I'm your boss, and I'm training you and all that sort of thing. And so basically, what I say goes, but I like challenge, and so if you never challenge me, if you haven't not even like direct push against talent, there's also the challenge. There's also the what about this, which is more the creative alternative. There's I don't agree, and there's the creative alternative, but expect that from them. And when all they do is say, yeah, thank you, yes sir, can I have another, sir? You got to say, look, that's not what we want from you. We want to get your thoughts, and you can do that with me. You may be the safest person in their life to be able to be a person that they learn how to confront and say no to and that sort of thing. But deal with that tension though, because a lot of people think, well, work's not about saying no. How can you say no to someone that you're reporting to? But a healthy leader appreciates that. I remember talking to someone who said that they almost fired someone because the person was not optimized because they knew they didn't agree with anything, or there was a big project they were on, but they were afraid to say it, and you could tell their performance was getting lower and lower and lower. They weren't covering their people, the money wasn't going the right places, things were going very slow, and until they finally said, look, I'm just not encouraging you to, I'm telling you, you have to disagree sometime. I may overrule you, but I want to hear you out. Then things started coming the other way. So that's a good capacity to work on. Help them to understand that truth is truth, and your company, your culture, and you as a team leader appreciate the truth that you give and the truth that you receive, and good things will happen. All right, have a good class.